Welcome back, episode 2 of Zoned In with Ethan Berry here on the End Zone Sports YouTube channel and wherever else you find your podcast. Happy to be joined by Tony Westbrock. Tony, thank you. Thanks for hopping on, being our second guest, second behind Dana, but still pretty good spot to be, right?
Those are some big shoes to fill. And thanks for having me on here. It's an honor.
Give me. Let's start with a sports take. The transfer portal, NIL, 5 years. All these college guys sticking around for 7 years. Pro players coming back to college. What's your stance on it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do we need to see some rules? Where do you fall on this issue?
Boy, we're going heavy right out of the gates. I like
Heavy,
it.
yeah, there you go.
I'll tell you what, I kind of have mixed thoughts on it. I think it's good overall for the landscape. I think the NCAA has probably had a little too much control, exerted a little too much control over student
Yeah.
athletes for too long. I think the pendulum maybe swung a little bit too far the other way. So I do think there probably needs to be some rules when people like Nick Saban are retiring because the um, the sheep are out of the barn or whatever the term is there. I think it probably needs to be reeled in a little bit here.
Yeah. And there's been a number of coaches too. I mean, you mentioned Saban, but on the basketball side, it's been a number of coaches in their 60s, 70s who are just like, I'm out of this because of the rules. And even some younger coaches, Jay Wright and at Villanova, Tony Bennett, Virginia. So I'm with you. There's got to be something. Like it's almost like less about what the rules are and more about just having rules, having some structure that everybody can follow and know, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Agree. Yeah, it's pretty telling when I was speaking with a friend of mine who runs an apparel company, and his son is a kind of a Division two quarterback, played here locally in Tampa, was a standout quarterback, and is now at a Division two school fighting for a Division one um, spot on a team, and his high school teammate happens to be a player at the University of Miami who's a defensive back. This
Okay.
kid's really, really good, but doesn't start,
Mhm.
and he's getting $60,000 a month just in NIL money, and he's content with. Obviously, the kid wants to play, but he's not even one of the starting, 11 on that Miami team that was in the playoffs this past year, and he's pulling
Yeah.
in $60,000 a month. Just, I mean, it's insane the money that's being handed down to these kids. A lot of them have
Yeah.
earned a lot of money, but it just there needs to be a little structure here.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, 700 a year, something like that. That's unbelievable. Yeah. To
Yeah,
not
no
even
doubt about it.
start. I mean, what are we doing? So,
Yeah,
all right, let's get into end zone. What we're here to talk about. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you get started, how what pushed you over the edge to say, you know what, this is something that I want to start and get off the ground.
sure. No, good question. So it all started back 2008. I was working for one of our, if not the biggest competitor of End Zone Sports, and worked at their national headquarters alongside the founder of that company. Had a lot of meetings daily, weekly with him on an ongoing basis, and I coached in their local league and coached my son. And this other friend of mine happened to have a son that was on my team, and he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, let's start our own sports league, sports program." And obviously, I knew that was a conflict of interest that probably
Hmm.
didn't have a lot of sea legs to grow. And I told him, I said, I'm not sure how we do that. So over a couple beers, over the next few weeks, the idea started to grow, and ultimately just landing into me coming back to him and saying, let's talk more about this. So we started End Zone in the spring of 2008 as a local sports league. Had a tremendous learning curve, did a lot of things that we didn't do again, and then we implemented certain things that worked really well. And I had a little bit of a head start coming from where I came from. So we knew we were on to something, but it wasn't until 2.5, 3 years later that I had gone to my employer, who was a franchisor of probably 11 or 1,200 franchise units in the tech space and in senior care, and kind of sold him on the idea of having End Zone Sports brought in to the mix of his system. So he purchased me out. I basically became a partner with him, and we started to grow and expand that out. And then in 2016, 2016, we had an amicable split, and I became 100% outright owner of the business, and we continued to expand and grow. And at that point, had probably 25 or 30 franchises in place, and over the coming years, tried to grow and expand. And a lot of those were very difficult times, just kind of learning,
Yeah.
finding our way, and trying to help and support franchise owners the best way we knew how.
Was there something at that previous employer organization that, you said your friend mentioned to you, hey, let's do this on our own. Was there something that happened that said, hey, this is something we don't like, we don't want to participate in this, that kind of pushed you over the edge and say, you know what, let's do our own thing and we can do this better? Like what was your goal to say, hey, I'm not liking the way this is done, but this is, when I start my organization, this is what I want to see.
It's a really good question. Obviously, there was a lot of risk involved there. I mean, you just don't step away from
Right.
a job and a position you have where you're supporting a family just to go out on a whim with a hobby, right? So there was a lot of trepidation there, hesitation, a little bit of nervousness, but I've always been a little bit of a risk taker and
Hmm.
felt like as an entrepreneur, this is something I really wanted to do and see it through. So there was an unbelievable amount of sweat equity that we put in over the first 3 to 4 to 5 years, just to get it going and get it to any shape and form of where it's at today.
When you look at where we're at today, what do you feel like we need to do a better job of? Like, is there one area, whether it's an area of business or an area of execution of what we're currently doing, where you say, hey, this is a spot where I would like to improve, see us do better. Maybe we can close the gap on our competition here, or get into a different what's the word I'm looking for? Like a different market over here. Like, is there one thing where you look at it and say, hey, this is something we can do better across the board?
That's every day kind of my thoughts and what I do, what I'm tasked with. And there's so many areas for improvement. And boy, I wish I had 2 hours to go over all of them with you, but just to prioritize some of the main ones. We've looked at other vertical markets, Ethan, and tried to be flexible with where and how opportunity kind of presents itself. We've ventured in after school programs and even going
Mhm.
into public schools after school opportunities and done very well. We've secured seven-figure contracts with local school districts out in California. We're doing really well with that. So we're exploring wherever there's opportunity, viable opportunity. We got to be careful not to bring on revenue streams that are not tested because the minute we begin to do that and we become a little too top heavy with opportunity that's not, we'll call it ripe or seasoned, then I think we're in a little disadvantageous position. But I think for the most part, we're in a good spot at this point where we need the most attention and help. Things that we're doing, we've heard loud and clear the need for greater automation. We went with a national partner, which is Constant Contact, which is web-based
Mhm.
email marketing. And it's been a great partner. They've been a great partner, and we've secured a pretty healthy contract with them to add some additional automation into our current programming so that it's a lot more seamless for franchise partners to be able to connect and communicate with their base, with their customers. So I think automation is there at the forefront. The website is our storefront, so there can't be enough time and attention put into that. And then of course support. We just implemented at conference. You guys will see a brand new platform. We haven't pushed it too much because we really want the surprise factor to be there. It's a LMS, a learning management system. We're going to have video-based learning. It's a platform so franchise partners can go in and at their pace kind of go through that 13-week step-by-step sports league training. And then for the End Zone Junior program for our preschools, it's a separate path, learning path there. So we've had countless hours of planning and implementation. I'm shooting a lot of videos. I didn't necessarily want to do that, but I had some of our franchise advisory members come to me and say, you need to be the one to shoot these videos. There's little nuggets and things that we just feel like in the current training environment we're not getting. So whatever it takes, I'm happy to do. So I've spent way more time in studio creating video content and
Hmm.
uploading these and working with our editing software team to produce these so far maybe 35 or 40 videos that are going to be part of our training platform. So I think a lot of it is around technology, making access to time-saving measures and making franchise owners a lot more efficient with their time and being able to connect with their end user and spend most of their time um, in their business and not necessarily on their business, right? Or I'm sorry, on their business, not in it as much.
Right, right. Well, with Dana, we talked a lot about we talked a lot about Tyson. So I wanted to ask you about Shane, who a couple months ago, Shane Larkin, a couple months ago stepped down.
Mhm.
Um, I believe. Talk a little bit about your relationship with him and the job he's done and how long you've known him, what he's done to help get the business off the ground. Because, I know for me, he was somebody who I had a really good relationship with, and crucial in the training and helping people get started on franchises.
Sure. You're talking about Shane Larkin here, right?
Yeah,
Not
Shane Larkin. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So a tremendous amount of respect for Shane. Shane and I are still super close. In fact, he's still handling new franchise training because he does such a great job with that.
Okay.
His end goal is to grow his league, his program as much as he can. I think a few years ago he tried selling his business to spend more time doing what he's doing as director of franchise support. At the end of the day, I think there's just probably more opportunity for him expanding and growing his reach with his business than at this current time what we could offer him. We made a lot of changes at the beginning of the year, and I just think it put him in a position where, from a time perspective, I think his time is much better spent growing and building his own platform, his business, his end zone leagues and programs, and he's doing a great job. As you said, he is super sharp. He's been instrumental from day one that he's been around. He was my first hire with the End Zone Junior side. I brought him in to test the market in Tampa for our
When was
preschool
that?
program, 2013. So
Okay.
he was
So
a
you so
you
you're
know, he
going
was
on
a
13 years with Shane.
yeah, so
Yeah.
he was a junior or senior in college, and
Hmm.
he's come a long way. I remember first day I hired him from the field to come in at corporate. I remember him being on the phone and he was talking to a friend and he thought nobody could hear him. He's like, I got a desk job. This is the greatest thing ever. So it was cool watching him grow and expand. And again, he's been terrific. And he's always, whenever I think of where we've come from, I'm always going to associate his contributions to that.
What stood out to him when you hired him as a fresh out of college kid? What
Well, he
what stood
jokes about
out?
this. Yeah, he jokes about this, and it's kind of true. I'm a Cincinnati All guy. When you talk about the Bengals, Reds, and you got a guy named Shane Larkin. I don't
Yeah.
know how far you go back, but Shane Larkin was a stud shortstop on that 1990 World
Well,
Series team.
it was Barry Larkin played for the Reds, right? And Shane Larkin was his
Correct,
son.
correct,
Yeah, yeah,
correct. And Shane Larkin was his son that played basketball at Miami. So
yeah.
Barry Larkin was a all-star at the time. And so I'm thinking when I read this, I'm like, there's no way this is Shane Larkin. And so when I'm
Right.
a bit nervous when I'm calling him on the phone, I've called the resumes and I'm going through our list of people that have applied. And it turns out he wasn't, but he was lucky that his first name and the name of my son are the same because it got him another round in the interview process. But he impressed me right from the beginning, and it had a certain presence about him that I thought stood out.
From a training perspective, what do you think as somebody who's new or getting started? What's the most important to take out of the training curriculum, whether it's from Shane or whether it's early on getting started with Tyson and Jeremy in those early days?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from people that I see get the quickest starts is, and I think we could probably do a better job, Ethan, at helping set expectations for people. I think people come out of the gates thinking that, hey, I'm going to just crush it right out of the gates. And the reality is, whether you talk about some of the highest producing franchise owners we have that are doing seven figures in revenue every year, those people all had struggles and trials and tribulations. It doesn't come easy for anybody. Um, but I think going into this, knowing that it's going to be difficult, it's not easy. And in fact, even from when you came on board, our vetting process with new franchise partners has become pretty rigorous. I mean, there's probably 10 or 12 steps that Dana and I have worked out. We designed a lot of those came from our previous experience in franchise development, that we're trying to make sure we got the right people, the right metal in people's minds, and that they're fully prepared for the journey because it's not easy. And we tell people that all the time. In fact, I'd much rather try to talk people out of doing this than talk them into doing
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
because they've got to demonstrate to us that they have that uh that fortitude, that strength and guts to gut through the hard times
yeah.
in business. And everybody that's been successful has been through some difficult lean times, I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up trying to talk people out of doing it because I know like that's of um my previous life, like that was something you heard at high turnover jobs. It was like, hey, like, this is going to be tough. And obviously the turnover is different from this perspective compared to like a minimum wage type of job. But like, hey, you've really got to want to get into what you're doing and I think that makes a ton of sense. What in terms of goals, like where do you want to see this thing end up? Do you have a number of franchises that you want to see? Do you have a number of kids that you want to see signed up across the country? Like, how do you evaluate where the company is at as a whole?
Yeah, so the great question. There's a number of things that we evaluate. Dana and I are probably strategizing on these types of things, a minimum of three, maybe as many as 5 hours a week on just, making sure we're reaching our goals and what we call our rocks, which are kind of goals to help us on a quarterly and annual basis reach where we want to go. I really don't have a set number to give you. I don't want to limit ourselves to any set number, but I would be remiss if I didn't say I believe we will be a $25 million company in the next 5 years, meaning that total output annually of franchise owners exceeds that dollar amount.
Yeah,
We're probably at a quarter of that right now, and we're growing at leaps and bounds. A lot of that's because of Dana and what he's done and our team. We got a great leadership team in support and good boots on the ground. So we're set up really, really well. But it really hadn't been since the last probably 2 years that a lot of these systems have been put in place that have really helped us with some hyper growth.
last question for you. I asked Dana the same question. The conference next month. What are you looking forward to most about that?
Wow, I can't wait. I think about it every day. I just got off a call with Chris a few minutes ago. We were talking and planning it. It's an opportunity, and I think this will be your first opportunity to join us at the conference, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think you were there last year, right?
No, I wasn't there last year. I'll be at it.
Yeah.
I've already got something this year, so I won't be able to be there either.
Okay,
But
gotcha, gotcha.
but
So
yeah,
it's hard to explain, and I think maybe I'm a little biased in this, but I've been around franchising for over 20 years, and I've never seen an organization that has the caliber of the people that are as connected as we are. And it sounds cliche-ish, but it feels very much like family when we're all together. Um, Sometimes it gets a little heated with some healthy discord among people in there, and it's never personal, but it's always what's best for the company. And these meetings will take on a little different level now because we've had two franchise partners that have stepped up and said, "Look, let's not have this about individual people just getting up and presenting on different ideas, which is always healthy." It's now structured in a way that Endzone Junior will break out and Endzone Sports Leagues will break out and have their own sessions. And at the very end, there will be a goal for everybody to take back home that's going to help them grow their business. So, what I'm most excited about, honestly, is just being around these people. These are people that have stepped up, and every single franchise partner has entrusted in us to make the decision to join Endzone Sports. We have the ultimate responsibility to make sure that we do everything possible to make them successful. And just being with these people is humbling. Just
Yeah.
what they've given us the opportunity to help them do our passion, which is youth sports and helping build and grow these programs around the country. So I'm just excited, Ethan, to see everybody. There's so many great people that are there every year. Hopefully next year you're able to join us because it is a must do within this organization to see and experience that at least one time.
Yeah.
The camaraderie and all the great things. We're going to have a scavenger hunt one night at Armature Works, take a river taxi down for dinner at a place called Rick's on the River. So cool
Nice.
stuff
Yeah.
that's planned. Carissa's doing an awesome job getting that in place. So yeah, we're pumped up. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. My one of my best buddies is getting married that weekend. So I wasn't able to make it work, but I'm sure it'll be a
That's
blast. Tony, appreciate you hopping on. And look, you said you had big shoes to fill with Dana. I think you did a pretty good job.
I appreciate it. You didn't ask me too much about him. I'll tell you what, since Dana's come on, just a quick thing. He's been an
Yeah.
absolute beast. His work ethic is relentless and just awesome at what he does. He's a true pro and has completely changed the landscape and trajectory of end zone sports. So he's not only one of my best friends, but he's a hell of a business partner to have and a great guy.
All right. Good to hear. Tony, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ethan.